is the most anticipated panel for today because especially being held at Amazon in these premises, a lot of people are interested in hearing about leading in tech with resilience, be it from an executive perspective, be it from coming from a technical contribution perspective. We want to hear up in our next panel, Breaking Barriers in Technology Leadership, from Nitya Gupta, who's a product and GTM executive at NetApp and has more than 20 years of experience. Priyadarshini Natarajan, who's a technical fellow at Walmart, more than 18 years in tech. Priya, I found out from your LinkedIn that you were previously at Amazon. You're a principal engineer at Amazon. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Kirti, who is an engineering leader from Semiconductor Banking Academia with more than 30 plus years of experience in the tech industry. I want to welcome all of you along with Suvarsha, who's our moderator for today. A little bit about Suvarsha. You folks can get situated. Yeah. A bit about Suvarsha, who's our moderator today. She's a senior tech PM at Amazon with over 13 years of experience scaling B2B products from inception to IPO in startups and established companies. She aims to use her own experience of adapting to a new country to help others navigate similar challenges and to gain insights from the community. Suvarsha, I'm going to hand this off to you. I will also share my mic with Nitya, so it's easier for, yeah. So I think Nitya and Kirti can share the mic. Oh, perfect. Awesome. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can everyone who's on the virtual meet hear me? Okay. Do we have a thumbs up? Yes. Okay. I'm just a little bit um, over the moon to be sitting here with 20 plus and 18 plus and 30 plus. I don't know. I can't even count the total number of experience that we have here on the stage. So welcome everybody and thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to delve into breaking barriers in technology and leadership, a path filled with unique challenges that most of you are aware of. So let me quickly go introduce each of our panelists in detail. So we'll start with Kirti, who's right here in the center. She's a dynamic leader and a philanthropist with over 30 years of experience in semiconductors, banking, and education. Most recently, she served as a software engineering director at Intel. During her 25 years at Intel, she received several accolades, including chair of Intel's global project. You can't? Hello? Can you hear me okay? Am I good? Louder? Okay. 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 So um, I know where I stopped. So during her 25 years at Intel, this is where you all clapped, she received several accolades, including chair of Intel's Global Project Manager Community, recipient of Intel's Data Center Group's Inclusion Hero, Thought Leader of the Year, and recognition as an Intel's cultural influencer. An active supporter of women and girls in STEM, Kirti also served as a board of chair for Oregon Women at Intel. And it goes on. She has seen the industry evolve over the last 3 decades from being almost entirely male dominated in the semiconductor witches to now having more women step into leadership roles, having a seat at the table. Kirti takes pride in having led a successful career while raising two amazing kids, her daughter's right here at the corner, and being here for her aging parents. Please welcome. We'll move on to Nitya Gupta, who's sitting at the far end. is a seasoned technology executive with 20 years of experience in product management, go to market strategy, and sales operations. Currently serving as an executive director of product management at NetApp. So I know a lot of folks here want to talk to you. Just a heads up that you'll be getting a lot of questions. So she previously held leadership roles at Amazon and T-Mobile. She's worked in multiple countries, including US, UK, UAE, and India. Passionate about giving back, Nitya coaches young women while advocating for female leadership. And there's more. Residing in Sammamish with her family, she's also a national martial arts champion, professional dancer, avid hiker, and a fitness enthusiast with dreams of creating a company that promotes a healthy mind and body. Please welcome her. Priyadarshini, who's right here, has over 18 years of experience in designing, scaling diverse platforms. She specializes in architecting big data platforms, AI/ML platforms, large scale distributed system, security platforms. I know that's a lot of platforms, but the last one is customer centric products. Currently, she's a technical fellow at Walmart and leads the architectural strategy for Walmart's Health and Wellness Division. Welcome, Priya. So without further ado, I'll get into a couple of questions that I have from our end, a few that I've noted from each of your LinkedIn pages that came up as comments. I just had a 30-minute conversation with each of you yesterday and learned a lot, so excited to do this. This is a common question for three of you because each of your experience is very varied. So maybe, Nitya, we can start from you. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced as a woman in tech, and how did you overcome them?
Can you hear me? Okay, great. First of all, I feel very honored to be invited here to speak on these topics and sharing the stage with Kirti and Priya. Thank you so much for having me here. Um, there's so many challenges. Where do I start? But I think the biggest challenge I would say is, when you come in from, I grew up in India, by the way, and then I had the opportunity of working in different countries, and I came to the US. Things are different, and I came from a very privileged background where there was no discrimination between man and woman. I grew up in a household of brothers. My cousins were all brothers. Everything was equal. And I never thought coming to America that I would start seeing some sort of gender discrimination. I started realizing it when I entered college, and there's certain comments and things that were made on you as a woman, but then you really realize the impact of it when you enter the workforce. And I wouldn't say that anybody was consciously discriminating or consciously putting you aside, but it was just very surprising in the beginning, is like why I was not being heard, and I'm pretty, confident human being. Why I was not being heard in meetings, or why decisions were being made in happy hours, or some other event or gaming event outside of work. And you don't realize it when you're like 21, 22. You realize it later a little bit when you start seeing these symptoms. And so I think it was more about really realizing that this thing happens, and especially from the background I had, because I never felt that the entire first 20 years of my life. And so I would say it was more a challenge within me to recognize that early on, that, hey, just because somebody is telling me that, your strategy is not that right, or, hey, no, we'll do it this other way because this is better, is the right way to do it. I had to be very clear that, and very firm that my ideas or whatever I was bringing to the table was sound. And that's what I believed in, and be a little bit more firm. So I wouldn't say it was like one little challenge. This was just the starting of many different things. And then as I grew up in the managerial or the leadership roles, you saw it more and more. And I'm sure we'll talk about it throughout the session here. But I would say that recognizing some of these symptoms was not very natural for me. It took me a little bit time to realize that something like this actually does happen. So I would say that is kind of more, the challenge. I would say. But I'm sure, like, Priya and Kirti have some other challenges.
Able to resonate with you. So also growing up in a South Asian family, if something doesn't go right, we always think there's something wrong with us. So I'm an introvert and I'm the quietest person in the room usually. So my voice doesn't get heard out. Even now I have that issue, but it used to happen a lot more, like say early in my career, and I always thought, oh, it's on me. I have to become an extrovert. I have to be loud. I have to be heard. I always thought it's on me, but it took a long time for me to realize, or I had some really great mentors and managers who were able to point it out and then encourage me, and also, make my voice heard in a larger setting. So, and I think I seen them help me motivate myself as well, and then keep the ball rolling and realize it's all not on me. I think I just had to work, understand the challenges, and okay, yeah, yeah. So what? Yeah. So it, help you. Now I'm able to recognize it's not on me. It's how it is, and there are a lot of fancy terms right now which talks about mansplaining and all that. When I didn't know about those terms 15 years ago, but I knew that was happening. It still happens. So the things that I do now is cautiously make sure when I see that happening to my peers at work, I'm able to voice it out, and it's a lot more easy with a lot of Zoom calls right now where you're able to pause and say, hey, let her talk or let them talk. It's a lot easier now. Uh, but I think the first hurdle I would say is to get out of the self doubt. And it's okay with different personalities. It's at the end of the day, I think anybody can be successful if we just keep doing the right thing.
Yeah, well said. And definitely both the points that Nitya and Priya you brought up are things all of us face, and I definitely did. Challenges wise, I'm very similar to you, Nitya. Grew up in an environment where I never felt different. In fact, I remember I'm 2 years younger than my brother, and we went to the same engineering school. By the time I went, my fees was twice what his was, and not once did anybody think twice about it. Right? I mean, it was like, yeah, that's the education he got. That's the education she's getting. So never did I think of it as, oh my gosh, I'm a woman. Of course, we were 60 students in a class, out of which only 11 were girls. So that should have sent me a message somewhere. But I was just having too much fun in college, so didn't pay attention to that. Come into the workforce, and again, I think I was young and just enjoying life, so didn't pay attention to these things. And early on, it didn't impact me much, maybe. But clearly, when coming into this space, when I did work in the academia space or in the banking space, because I work with Citibank, City Financial and stuff, I didn't face it a lot there either. In the semiconductor industry, obviously, as you saw, I've been working 30 plus years. So back in the day, it was pretty obvious that you were the only woman at the table, and you were the only woman in the room. And again, given how I was raised and how I didn't focus on this, it didn't bother me until slowly things started changing. And I was trying to mentor others, help others. And when I heard them bring up some of the things, I was like, oh my goodness, that is true, and I guess I just didn't focus on it. But these are important things to make a change. But so that's when I started going in and working on, the women's organization at Intel and doing things like that. But really, from challenges standpoint, it's as simple as, and I guess, one of the other speakers earlier said, take your challenges, make them work for you, right? So maybe that was the lens I had. Because some of the changes I made through my career on roles I picked were, okay, I want to be a mom now. So here's a slight change in role I'm going to do so that I can manage things better, and still have a very fulfilling life at home and otherwise. But looking back, maybe those are things that could bother someone else, saying, why do I have to make the compromise? Why do I have to make the change? Something I didn't really pay attention to. But then, like I said, as I mentored folks, I was like, okay, we do need to make some changes. Things as simple as when I was expecting my first, who's here, Sanya, sitting right there. She's 22 now. that when I was expecting her, we didn't have the concept of work from home. You were expected to be there. All my peers on that specific team, all men, their wives were having babies at the same time I did. And the look I would get from them, just in the look, was, well, that's why our wives are home. And so there was no understanding. I don't want the sympathy, but there was no understanding. And I literally remember one day where there was this very dingy room, because now we have very nice facilities thanks to the effort some of us put together, right? But there was a really dingy room in the office where I was pumping. And some of you might not know the concept of pumping yet, because given some of you are really young and early in your life. But I had a little baby at home. I was at work, so I was pumping, and I would be so scared whether or not I had hit that mute button, because what if somebody hears that I'm pumping while I'm on a meeting? So that was the kind of stuff we dealt with, right? I was walking into the office one day and there was snow. I fell. Balance isn't one of your strengths during the time when you're pregnant. And I always thought, I'm like, why don't I have a spot to park closer to the door? And now we do. So we put in a lot of effort. I don't know if all the companies do, but at least in Intel, we really worked hard as a women's organization, worked with our facilities folks and said, let's make some of these changes happen. So things have come a long way. But again, to challenge, there's still a long ways to go. So, and there's lots of things women do go through in life, hormonal stuff all along. Nithya and I shared some stories together yesterday, but it doesn't end. We are different. There's things that come up, but keep looking at it as, how can I make the best of the situation today? But what can I make? What change can I make so someone else doesn't go through this, right?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much, all three of you. That was very nicely put. And I resonated with a lot of these things. And it was great to know that it's not uncommon. These are very common things that we should probably get together and learn about. So, moving to the next theme in tech, leadership and vulnerability is a big chapter in itself, right? So, we'll start with you, Priya. How do you think women's leadership styles differ from men's in the tech industry?
I would say women are a lot more authentic. It's easy for us. I think that's one area where we have an advantage over men. It's easy for us to be authentic, and we're a lot more vulnerable in the sense, at least I've always been very open with my mentees and all my junior folks to talk about, hey, I did this and I caused an outage or whatnot, way more than what my peers, male peers would do. So that kind of helps you bring your juniors and your peers pretty close to you. It again comes naturally. That's an area I would say that's a lot more easier for women leaders to connect to our juniors or connect to our peers, to build that bonding. I do know there are other areas of leadership where we we need to have that emotional intelligence to able to think from their perspective, able to walk in their shoes without actually being there. I know I wouldn't have been there up all night during an on-call situation, but I need to empathize with them to, first thing that I say is, hey, go take your break. And so those are things I think are unique to women leaders than a male leader. And like she said, like more often, I think, again, because of our natural abilities, we are able to say, not see the struggles of not just women but also men, because we are a lot more observant, we're a lot more empathetic naturally, and that's where we get an advantage. There are a whole bunch of disadvantages we not we have, but what we get. But then I think these things help women be better leaders.
Kirti, Nitya, do you want to take a stab at this too? I know this is a topic close to your heart. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what I might be a little unique in this space, but I will say completely agree with everything that Priya said. We're definitely the emotional intelligence, EI. EI, is a big thing that people look for in leaders, and most women do have that. What I will be slightly different in saying is, I don't know necessarily if this is a gender-specific thing. Every person is unique, right? We have some people who are extremely compassionate men. I've had some leaders who are very, very compassionate, and they're men. And some women we're not. And I think where we do need to understand is some of the experiences, the lived experiences that women have just make us better over time, because we do have different roles we play. And part of that, molds us to be better from an EI standpoint, or be better from a compassion standpoint. So it's not necessarily always that we're born that way. It's the lived experiences that contribute to. And where we want to be cautious is, I've had, sometimes a harder time, and I'm sure a lot of you will relate to it. I know we were chatting yesterday and we both agreed that sometimes having a woman leader can be harder, because if they don't have the same struggles you do, something as simple as periods, menstruation, I'm going to just say these words out here, right? If you are someone who struggles with it quite a bit, but your manager, who is a woman, doesn't, just because we're all different, she almost thinks that it can't be. Whereas you get the benefit of the doubt from a man, sometimes way more, because they just don't know and they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So all I'm going to say here is, for women leaders, it is important to recognize that you could play in with some of those biases that you should be aware of, and make sure you're not letting that come in the way. Be compassionate. Bring in that compassion that is there somewhere. Work off of those lived experiences and be a good leader, because both men and women need your leadership, and use that to be a better leader.
Yeah, I can't agree more with both of you. Just kind of adding on to what Kirti and Priya said, the difference that I see with men and women leadership is, men are just way more confident. Let me just tell you that. They're loud and they're confident. Even if they don't know, they are confident. Now I'm generalizing. So of course, there are a lot of, I have worked with some amazing, amazing male bosses as well as female bosses. But I'm just saying, from a general observation perspective, women are always self-doubting. And they're always the first one to raise their hand to take a new initiative, even when they don't need to. They're already doing 20 things. So we need to stop doing that. We need to be very, very clear about what we believe in and be able to articulate it in a strong and firm way that, hey, this is an idea, this is a strategy, this is how we should go. And don't let any man or woman, this is not a man-woman thing, but don't let any man or woman create doubt in your mind. If you have a doubt, go and talk to your mentor. Go and talk to somebody who has your best interest and say, you know what, I think there is this thing coming up. Can I discuss with you? Can I just run this by you? But have that conviction. We sometimes lack conviction. I have made those mistakes in my career. And that is my advice to everybody, is that we could change the world if we are more convicted about the things that we believe in and be able to articulate it and communicate it in a firm way. Confidence is sexy. Let me tell you that. Nothing else is. You walk into a room, we know that's a confident woman, we know that's a confident man. And I'm saying this because it's not a man or woman thing, but still I see that women completely self-doubt doubt themselves. The second part about vulnerability. I came from a household that everybody was either a doctor or a CEO, or I came from that kind of pedigree. So for me, and it was like, yeah, I have, the success is yeah, you have to be successful. And with that, somehow, nobody taught me this, but somehow I was like, you know what, I can't show my emotions. I shouldn't be vulnerable. And that is wrong. I realized much later in my careers, in my 30s, that it's important to be vulnerable. It is so important for you to be vulnerable. And I think Priya touched on this a little bit, is that vulnerability shows honesty, it shows authenticity. It shows that, yes, we feel the pain too, just like you are feeling it. Some people may not be discussing things with you because they feel they can't, because you're putting up this extra strong front. And I'm still working on it, by the way. You ask my friends and family, even my husband, they're like, yeah, you could show a little bit more emotion. And I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress for me because of the way I was brought up and the way I have been. But show your vulnerability. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. People relate to you more. People will open up to you more. People will share the issues more. And when you can break that break that wall, you'll have a fantastic career. You'll have a fantastic team that follows you. You'll have a fantastic set of partners and peers. You will just unlock yourself. And I'm telling you, I'm still learning about it. But I would just say that be confident, try not to self-doubt yourself, and if you self-doubt, have those important people in your life that you can run those things by, who can, just formalize your idea a little bit more. It's okay. We all go through these emotions. You're not alone. I'm not alone. Kirti's not alone. Priya's not alone. We all just have to be a little bit more firm and convicted, as well as vulnerable with our emotions and what we are feeling at that moment of time.
Thank you, Nitya, for. I saw some of your takeaways are very tactical, so I'm going to use them and let you know how they went. So, for Kirti, I know you touched upon a very beautiful example on a chat yesterday, but how do you view showing vulnerability as a female leader?
Yeah. So I'm completely one of those who believes vulnerability is important. Very hard, very, very hard, but very important to bring yourself, like Priya said, women are authentic. To bring our authentic selves forward, you have to be vulnerable. What does that mean, right? And everybody's level of being vulnerable can be different. It's okay, because not everyone wants to share everything, and that's okay. But bringing your true self as a leader tells others that they can bring their real selves to work and their full selves. That's a very important, if there's a very simple example, a tactical example, which isn't about vulnerability, but when a leader sends an email at 2 a.m., the message everyone knows, right? It sends a message to the org that, hey, at 2 a.m., I'm expecting you to be up and working like I am. So, you have to be so careful not to do that. This is things we learned over the years. I'm like, I will not send a note at that time because, that's not what I'm expecting my people to do. And by the way, Akhila is sitting in this room. She was in my org. Surabhi has worked with me. But, these are things you tend to learn. Now, coming to vulnerability, the story that we're referring to is I was sharing, I have the worst eyes possible. I had a retinal detachment in my 20s. I've had cataract surgeries in my 30s. And I don't want to go how much further because all of you are still in your 20s and 30s for the most part. But I've got really bad eyes. And so, in fact, I always kid, and I was telling them yesterday that I rarely don't like people. If I finally land up not liking someone, that's the person who I'll be donating my eyes to when I pass, right? But with those eyes, and given a very eye intensive career that I was in, I mean, tech is all about that. And what I would do is I would make sure people were aware. Like, people would first not understand because I used to sit at the head of the table because that I needed to do to be able to see things a certain way, right? And not everyone struggles with that. And people would say, yeah, Kirti always is at the head of the table. I'm like, yep, finally I can see. Or I would walk up to the screen or the board and people knew it. I was very open about it. And so when I struggled, others would help or immediately change the font or talk about, you have no idea how open people are to helping. Because you always think I shouldn't share, but you should, and you can is the point. There was a colleague of mine, though, who struggled with hearing, right? And he was a program manager, very senior person. And with program management especially, everybody around you is relying on you to track things, to make sure things are moving along, to document what conversations happened, what decisions were made, and how to make there's a lot of reliance on you. And sometimes this person didn't get those down just because of an actual issue where hearing was an issue. He had shared it with me one-on-one, and I kind of encouraged him. I'm like, why don't you just talk about it? But, he was a slightly older gentleman, ego back in the day. These things were much harder, I guess, for them to speak about, and he didn't. And it hit me the most when one day, he used to sit across from me, when one day he was walked out. So basically he lost his job, and the assumption was that his performance was bad because he was obviously making mistakes. And I so looked back and said, if only he had shared that, then maybe you could find other ways. People would review those things before it was sent out. People would support, this. So vulnerability is very key. One, for your own betterment, for you to be able to grow, for you people to know, oh, today is a bad day, but that's not necessarily how this person is always. Here's what's happening in their life. But more importantly, as you grow as a leader, it's more important because that's how you're allowing everyone else to feel comfortable and be okay. Their jobs are just a part of the whole day and their life. Let them not feel the pressure, right? So as a leader, remember that. Let them feel this is okay. Bring your good and your bad days to work.
Yeah, that's so spot on. I think I did touch about vulnerability earlier, so I would just uh, I would say one thing is it took me a really long time to understand how important it is, and that's why because I also see all of you in your early careers. It's like, I'll repeat myself, it's not a bad thing. It's a very, very strong quality in today's world. It really brings people along. I wish I had a professional role model at that time to let me know that. But as women, we are like, oh, we cannot show like, oh, I have a kid at home, or have to breastfeed my child, or, I have 20 other things to do at home. I will say, no, we got it. Oh, I want to send an email at 10 o'clock. It's okay. I'll send an email at 10 o'clock. It's okay to create your boundaries, like Kirti said, be vocal about your situation to your manager, your team. People are ready to help. I was scared asking for help because I thought that asking for help means I am weak. So wrong. And I wish somebody told me at that time that is wrong. Asking for help is a good thing. It's okay. If you will be amazed when you raise your hand and you ask for help, how many people come together to help you. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you trust them to open up your heart and tell them what you're experiencing, and also a trust that you're putting in that person who's willing to help you, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your partners. So don't shy away from asking for help when you're struggling with a project, struggling with something at home. It's okay. But I'll also caution you one thing. Not everybody is nice. And as in ambitious, strong, smart women, it also comes with scrutiny. And I have faced that, and I'm sure all of you have faced that. It comes with scrutiny. So, how do you tackle that? You want to know who is at your kitchen table. This is not a dialogue that I made up. If you have seen Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama's show on Netflix, I picked up this phrase because it just stuck to me and I kept thinking about it. Who do you want on your kitchen table? Who do you want? It's your close people who have your back with, throughout the process of whether you're winning a class or whether you're having a very, very tough time in your life or your job or whatever. So make sure you recognize those people who you want on your kitchen table who have your back. You don't want to be telling everything to everybody. And that's why I said, like, if you're a smart, ambitious women trying to make a mark, you are scrutinized, you are judged. People are talking behind your back. So make sure you choose your friends wisely. Make sure you choose your close ones wisely, and be open and share. You will know. You will know right off the bat who is in your kitty and who is not. It's not. It's not rocket science, right? So again, I know we spoke a lot. There's a lot of ideas here, but I would just leave it with two things. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's good, and create a good, very strong support system. And when you create that support system, give it back to them. When they are asking for help or they need help, be there for them, because a support system can really, really help us, not just in your careers, but in our personal life as well.
Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the next theme, which is work-life integration, and again, a big topic in tech. So, Kirti, maybe we can start with you. You told me about how you used to teach at a university, along with a full-time job in Intel and being pregnant. How did you do it all?
I said foolishness. No, we're all, I'm going to say every woman sitting here and on the call is pretty ambitious. Yes or no? Raise of hands, at least people in the room. Ambitious, yes? So that's what I was, right? It's funny, but one thing I'll say is if a lot of you have not taken some of these uh, tests like Strengths Finder and stuff like that, spend some time doing things like that. It tells you a lot about yourself. But coupled with that, there's another one where it tells you who you are and what your priorities are based on the phase you are in your life. So there was a time when I was extremely, ambitious, and et cetera, the things that go with it. And then there was a time once that I took that test where it came up with stability, balance, things like that. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is someone else's results, can't be me. Until I realized, no, I do have kids now, and I have this and I have that. So things change with time. But going back to when I was doing all of that, how did I? Well, I was pregnant. I didn't have a little one running around yet. So I could still afford to do some of that. The commute was not too bad. And again, back then there was no virtual. So I used to go to work all day, and then I would teach in the evenings. I used to teach program management at the university. And I was pregnant. I think it helped me stay distracted, from all the pregnancy blues that some people face. But more importantly, what it really helped me with is 5 weeks after having Sanya, you go through all those emotional ups and downs, and oh my gosh, suddenly I have this human I'm taking care of. And I was like, I need to do something. And I decided to go and take my PMP certification. Yeah, this was 5 weeks after delivering a baby. But what helped was because I'd been doing that teaching all along while I was pregnant with her, I did no prep. I just walked in, took the test, and I got certified, right? So yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I did it. I do know that right after, when I was pregnant with my second one, and my daughter was a toddler, and I still had my full-time job at Intel, I wanted to also go and do my MBA. And my manager at the time said, girl, you're crazy, don't. I actually, look back and think that still would have been an easier time to do something like that, because the toddler and the baby won't remember very different, and you still can make a lot more strides in your education and career.
Uh, and talking about work-life balance, I think very, very early in my career, my mentor said, like, if you're sad about a Sunday evening and if you're dreading a Monday morning, then you need to switch teams or your company. I, I think I live by it, and I stayed with Amazon for a long time. I did enjoy my time there. I was switching teams, but to me, it's very important to be happy, be it at work or personal life or anything. So there have been days when I'm having some of the lows in my personal life. Work used to be my vent out time when I'll spend 14 hours a day at work without complaining because I loved it. I love building things. When there are other days when especially after my kid was born, like I've never worked like I think from 4 to 8 at night, for 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. for many, many years. Like I refused to work at that time because that's my only time with my child. Like it doesn't matter what happens, like except when I'm 99% of the time I'm like that's my dedicated time with my child. So does it mean I had a perfect 9 to 4 or 8 to 4 job? No, like I used to take night meetings, but I still enjoyed it. So I think to me, balancing out or enjoying what we're doing, there's been days where I take a lot of vacation off because I wanted to spend more time with my family and I was a little bored at work. To me, like balancing out different stages of your career and having fun is the most critical part. It doesn't mean allocating fixed amount of time for work or for family. It just means understanding which is priority in those few months or days and making sure that you're still having fun. That's critical for me.
Let me let me add one more thing to that. So work-life balance, one of the in my 25 years at Intel, one of the CEOs at one time, someone did ask at one of our women's events, work-life balance, and he said there is no such thing as work-life balance. You either are working or you're, with your life. And it sounded harsh at the time, but actually that's very true. And I think you said it in as many words. If you're looking for on an everyday basis, how am I carving out time for these 10 different things, you've got it, wrong. There are phases of your life where you prioritize work. There are phases of your life where something else is higher priority. And it's okay to be that way because you have to look at life as a marathon. This is a long journey, you know? So it's not these little, every day you can't sit and analyze, did I balance things out? Did I do well at work and at home? It's not possible. We're humans, right? Just accept it, be okay with it, and prioritize. So, for instance, now I don't know if it was clear from my little write up or whatever that they put together, but I quit. Last year, I just quit my job, and Akila, who's sitting here, was just sharing with someone that the whole org was shocked. But for me personally, this was the time when I wanted to make that change. For years, I had been planning it. I had worked nonstop from the day I graduated till that day last year, with taking only 6 weeks after each child. Not enough for a woman to recover from that thing, but that was, at the time, my career was important. I did always, take care of my kids. My kids were important, my career was important, and based on what their ages were, I managed things and roles accordingly. But then in the last couple of years, my health was important. I wanted to take some time for that. I was in a very nasty car accident. I needed time to recover. And my parents are getting really old. So my mom's 2 weeks from being 90. And I did not want to live with regrets. My mom was a working woman. So when I left home, she was working. When she's been, around me, I'm working. So I'm like, I want to spend that time. And it is beautiful where now I'm learning, I was sharing with someone, I'm learning knitting, something I would never have thought I would do, but my mom is amazing at it. And I sit with her and we're both giggling like little friends and doing all of that. So there is no concept of work-life balance on an everyday basis. Know and be clear about your priorities and don't complain, because you make the choice on what time, what day, and what phase, what is important to you. Prioritize and do not complain. Don't look back and regret. Did you want to?
Yeah, Nitya, you spoke about embracing imbalance yesterday.
Yes,
So yeah.
I was going to say to what Kirti said, you got to be comfortable with imbalance. Just remember that. And it is not going to be, okay, I did 8 to 5 and then I'm coming home and I'm having a glass of wine and I'm going to be just chilling. It's not going to happen like that, especially when you have, a family, you have kids, growing little kids, older kids, parents, friends. And to Kirti's point here, it's the art of how you manage that and how you sustain that. When you are in your early 20s, you don't have a lot of responsibilities. You have lots of friends. Go out and have fun. Enjoy that phase. Build your careers. Learn new skills. Travel the world. Whatever rocks your boat. When I came into this country, I didn't have kids. I was just recently married, and I love to dance. So I joined this organization called Pratidhwani, and I started producing and directing and choreographing and participating in a lot of dance shows for 10 years. I did that even with a little kid. But then when I had my second child in 2014, it started getting difficult because my kids needed me, and I wanted to be a mom that was available and with a growing career. So I had to put something in the back burner for something else to be nurtured in my life. And I'm so happy about that. My kids are super close. Even right now, I have a traveling job, and there's a lot of weeks I'm not in Seattle, but we have such a great bond as a family. And whenever I find that time, I'm making sure I'm spending with them. Yes, some of my passions may take a little bit of a backseat. It's all temporary. It all comes back. The kids are with me for only for a short period of time. They're going to go and they grow up very fast, and they're going to go off to college. And sure, Kirti knows all about this, right? So I think it's okay. Just be comfortable with imbalance. There are ups and downs in life as well. Sometimes you have to prioritize family, parents over friends, over your career. It's okay. As Kirti said, it's a marathon. When you know what you're shooting for, you're going to get it. You just have to be patient. For me, it was a little bit difficult to understand delayed gratification. I was very impatient. I wanted the promotion right now. I want everything right now. I want to do 10 things. And I've realized through my experiences, that delayed gratification, it will come to you. You just have to wait for it. It's okay to be off balance, and it's okay to keep some things in the back burner when you're trying to do something else. If you are shooting for a career progression or changing the job, it may take a little bit more time for you to spend upskilling, you know, or preparing for interviews or whatever that. Sometimes your travel may take a backseat. It's totally okay. Prioritize what's important and really know very clear in your mind. Don't have the FOMO. You know the word FOMO, right? Don't have the FOMO. My friends are having this party and I want to be there, but I have an interview tomorrow. Understand your priorities very clear. If it's very clear, you will never feel guilty about not doing something and you will not feel that FOMO. I see a lot of people destroy their careers and their family life by just that FOMO. And so, again, be comfortable with that imbalance and also be kind to you. It's okay, you know, if some things don't work out in your timeline, but it will work out eventually.
And it's funny, but just to wake all of you up, because I know the 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock time frame puts everyone's not fair, Surabhi, for giving us this slot. But you know how Nitya was saying, sometimes those passions and interests you have can wait. And it'll all come back. It didn't come back for me, and that's okay too. Here's why, right? I used to paint, and in fact, I have some amazing paintings. And when I was, when they gave me my send-off party at work, one of the people came up to me and said, "The day you sell your paintings, I'll be buying them." And very recently, my daughter and I sat down to paint, and oh my gosh, I made the most horrendous painting. I looked at it again and again, and I'm like, "What is this?" And then she looked at it, and everyone tried so hard not to make me feel bad, but it is awful. So it may not come back, and it's okay.
Thank you so much for that, guys. So we have 5 minutes before we get on to questions. So any final thoughts or a piece of advice for this room, beautiful room here? Priya, you can start.
Very generic question. Do you have a theme or?
Theme is breaking into tech. It's all about leadership, vulnerability in tech. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I know one of the questions that I saw in the list of questions is, how do you keep yourself available in the changing world? Like, especially as a tech person, I would say a lot of new grads are coming to me asking, well, what like is there going to be an SDE role, or is computer science going to be relevant? I would say this is an even more relevant time than it was 20 years ago, because every small business and every big business is changing the way they're working. They need a lot more technology in their company in the world of AI than before. But the only main thing is software development is not going to be the same as it was 10 years ago. Like, things are a lot easy now. Yeah, you can, like, I would highly recommend you to get familiarized with all the AI tools that are available, coding tools, and not just that, like being able to interact with the Gen AI tools is very critical. I didn't know about that 10 years ago, and I was a developer at that time. But even now, I think things are changing rapidly. So I don't know if the college curriculum has changed. I don't think it has changed across all the colleges from what I see. There are a few colleges that are adapting to the changing world. But I would say don't just rely on your curriculum, but understand what's happening and get yourself familiarized. But I would still say this is the best time to be in the industry.
So I'll kind of divide that answer into two. One is from a tech perspective. So a lot of people come and ask me, oh, will product management be relevant in the world of AI? Hell yes. Everything is going to be relevant. But what is going to help you differentiate is how you apply AI into solving a problem. The quicker you understand how you can add value by use, AI is just a tool, by the way, right? You replace it with something else. If you are able to very quickly recognize a customer problem or a problem and able to apply your technical or whatever knowledge you have or skills, let's say AI, for example, and be able to apply it to add value to that problem or to solve the problem, that's a game changer. That's what we are looking for. So when I interview people, and I was a bar raiser in Amazon, had hundreds and hundreds of interviews that I've done, we're looking for people who have that aptitude and the mind share that I'm going to add value to this problem, or I'm going to add value to this organization. We don't need to know what you've done. Everybody's done a lot. There's a lot of competition. But if you can articulate, everybody's done it, by the way. What differentiates one from the other is how clearly you can articulate that, right? Write it down. journaling. I think somebody said that in one of the chats earlier. Journaling is very important. I do it. It may, all the Gen Z and everybody, my daughter always says, Mama, what are you writing? I'm like, I'm writing my goals. I'm writing my strategy. That's my personal thing. It may work for you, it may not work for you, but make sure you are, talking to yourself about that value that you can add. And whenever you take a new project, like how are you going to apply your AI skills, your technical skills, and add value. The quicker you add value, the quicker you will be able to, grasp and change and whatever that's coming your way. So that's on the technical side. On the non-technical side, I'll just summarize all the stuff that I said. Be okay with imbalance. Know your worth. Somebody also said earlier, negotiate. I do not know. I have put in so many offers out there for female candidates, very highly qualified. 90% of them do not negotiate. You're always getting a less offer. That's the Bible. Go and ask for more money. You're worth it. Know your worth. I cannot tell you. It's so surprising. Every male candidate that I've recruited will ask for more, maybe 2-3 times. We are going back and forth. But female like, yeah, I got it. Yeah. Okay. Accept it. I'm like, why? So please negotiate your salary. Know your worth. Don't let anybody tell you. And it's just not about compensation, but just overall, just have conviction. Know your worth. You're good. You're great. Women are changing the world today, and South Asian women are going to change the world and are changing the world.
Yes, I'm going to be saying the same thing, two parts, right? On the technical front, AI or otherwise, always be relevant. Have your skill set up to date. One thing that I always say is make sure that you're looking at your skills on how transferable they are across industries. Industries come and go, right? I mean, sometimes, oh my gosh, the automotive industry is having a heyday. Some other times, there's another aspect. Healthcare is big. Make sure your skills are transferable. There is nothing wrong in, when in the past people would talk about depth. Depth is pretty critical too, but you can still have skills that are transferable. So that's the number one thing I will always say. Keep your skills up to date. Make sure they're transferable. Make sure if you're going into the leadership space that, you're creating a safe space for others. Yes, you'll have doubts. None of us, I'll be shocked if anybody here is going to say that our lives, all these tips we gave doesn't mean that we've had it perfect. Oh my gosh, do I sit sometimes and look back and say, what did I do? Why did this not happen to me? Of course, we're human. So be okay with being human, right? And allow your people to be human too. Very critical. Productivity will be so much higher if your people are happy. Then they want to do things for you. You'll never have to run after them to get things done. When people say you should be working 14, 16 hours and the managers are having those expectations, I call BS on that. I create a happy environment. I tell my folks, luckily in my space, we weren't working on things that would kill someone. So I literally would go up to them and say, we had a milestone the next day, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to kill anyone. It's okay. If there's, and they'd be like, aren't you the one who should be pushing us? You'll do it. And they did, right? They would do it. So create that safe space. Be a role model, not faking it, but walk the talk, right? If you are genuine, if you are authentic, they will be. They'll give back multifold. And then on the whole balance of work and family, give yourself, create your own story. Don't always compare yourself to someone else. I know it's easier said than done, but you have to be okay with what success means to you. And I'll share it really, as a real thing. For me, and I was sharing it with some of these folks yesterday, I paused on my grade changes 9 years ago. And I said, I am going to be done because I wanted to get to that point. By that age, I did. And after that, I didn't want to be stuck in the rat race. And trust me, it's so hard because I kept getting the push, but you're doing this already and you're here and look at the, what you're, and I was like, I will not fall for that just because I want to own my story and I want to control it. I wanted to step out of the workforce when I wanted to, and I did. Now, doesn't mean I might not go back. I have a restless itch, maybe I will. But right now, every step was something consciously done, right? And then again, if you made a decision and it turned out not to be that great, live with it, right? It's okay. But learn from it and just keep moving on.
Thank you so much. With that, we'll open the floor for questions. We'll take maybe 2 from this room and then 1 virtually.
So I'm just curious what you're thinking. Just in the face of recent economic and political trends, it feels like the tech world is regressing away from accommodating people of diverse backgrounds, and not just gender, right? It feels like any amount of vulnerability will be penalized, especially with all the layoffs are happening. So I'm just curious, are you seeing a shift from where you are at in your respective industries, or am I just reading fake news? I don't know.
But I've not seen it personally in my in the company that I work at, but I am scared. I'm going to be honest. Just like what Kirti mentioned, I did see all the DI programs make a large impact. Like things weren't the same when I joined, but I saw how DEI made an impact in the companies that I worked at, and now when everybody is removing it, it is scary for me, but I've not experienced it myself, but I'm very skeptical about it, to be honest.
There you go, being vulnerable, right? Sharing exactly what she feels rather than just giving a story. No, I do think that's a very valid question. It's not fake news, even though, trust me, now that I'm in a kind of retirement phase, I'm watching a lot of news and a lot of it is fake news, you know. But no, so there's a lot of goodness that came from the diversity programs that we have, diversity and equity programs. For the longest time, a lot of the women didn't even realize they were being paid less than their peers, right? And a lot of companies went in, put that effort in, put the analysis in, and then we all got updated things. So there was a lot of value. There still is a lot of value. There's still a lot of underrepresented minorities that aren't even recognized even now, right? And there's challenges that people have, disabilities. And you're right that you wonder then, hey, should I even be, open about these things? What could happen? The bottom line is, like every program that's put in place for a good reason, sometimes it could be misused. So all I'll say is whether these programs stay or not, be true to yourself, right? Work hard, do your thing like you would, irrespective of whether someone recognizes you for your gender, someone recognizes you for a disability or not. You just stay true to yourself and keep doing it. Things work out, right? Should you be skeptical? The question I will ask is, are you relying on that program for something? Or are those programs helping you not be pulled back, right? So I don't want us to rely on it. So one of the things I would always say is, I don't need somebody giving me an additional favor to get me somewhere, despite having kids, despite doing all the other things I do, despite having a horrible, hormonal cycle all my life. I still was shoulder to shoulder with my peers, which means I'm way better, right? What I don't want happening is a thing that Nitya said earlier, that you go off to, over a beer, you're making decisions that impact me. Those I'm not okay with. And so some of those programs helped us get past that, and I hope we don't regress there. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be these waves, and we've got to see what comes of it. But just keep doing your thing, be good. I think we'll be okay.
I think Kirti and Priya said it very well. I would just say that if you asked me this question 10, 12 years back, my answer would be different. We didn't have these programs, by the way. Yeah. And we survived and we did great at that time. And even today, when they were brought in, as Kirti said, it definitely created some, really inclusive environment and things like that. And even if it's getting thrown up, and it is getting thrown out of a lot of organizations, by the way. Um, um, honestly, I don't like it, but at the same time, it's like, it is what it is. We survived when it was not there. We will survive when it's still not there now, even in this modern, era. So to her point, I would just double click on it and say, just make sure you're relevant, make sure you're aware of your surrounding, raise your voice where you feel like, you are marginalized. I think there is a voice for everybody. Don't just sit and not raise your voice. I think women are very good at doing that. And even, anybody who I mentor or my friends and say, you got to say something. They're like, no, yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's fine. Don't. If you're not fine, just say it. It's not fine. I don't think anybody is going to give you a cross or scratch you because you said something. So, be smart about it, of course. But I would say that we should be fine. It doesn't feel good, but I think we'll be fine. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to ask a question about goal setting. Um, the reason I have this question is because yesterday I had some chat with my mom and I asked her, okay, mom, I'm thinking about what should I do for my life in the next phase. I'm asking this is not because I didn't have some thoughts on it. It's because my idea is changing. So when I was younger, I thought, okay, if I go to that university, that's my goal. And then after that, if I go to certain company, that's my goal. And right now, I have a stable work, and I'm thinking about, so what's next? I feel I did enjoy my life a lot, and I like something beyond work. So I'm trying to think about, okay, what else I can do? Because I also like to do volunteer to help others. So I'm just wondering, okay, sometimes I'm thinking about, okay, probably I need to set some goals achievable, which means I just keep doing what I'm thinking about. On the other hand, I'm thinking about too ambitious, a lot of ambitious things I can do. For example, I can be entrepreneur, which probably would be a long way to go. So I don't know how to balance it. So I'm wondering whether you have some tips about how to set goals realistically and also ambitious enough to guide you through. And I understand people at different ages and phases would have different understanding about what's next, what's their goal. So you might have some more things to share. Thank you.
I think for me personally, at every stage of my career, I've had a few non-negotiable things. Like, I would know, like, hey, for the next year, I'm not looking to move, or for this year, I need to focus on my kid, or this year, this launch that is going on. So I try to structure my goals around identifying what are the non-negotiable things, at least that I foresee in the next 5 years, and then have ambitious goals, making sure that those aren't impacted. So that's how I define my priorities, with be it my life priorities or my day-to-day priorities. I always identify what are the non-negotiables. Like, it's both personally and and in official projects or whatnot. To me, that is very important. That helps me prioritize and make sure that I'm able to balance it out. The second one is, again, like, I've been in stages where once I'm comfortable, I am comfortable doing what I do, and I don't think about a lot of ambitious things. but but the most important thing that has helped me is self-realization, to know that, hey, I'm comfortable, I'm not getting challenged, it's a very routine life, and I'm in a rut kind of a feeling. Once I get that, I realize I need to start setting up some ambitious goals for myself, or maybe just stretch myself, be it personally or in professional career. So that's my mental model. So if I'm bored, I know I'm not doing something right, or if I'm stressed, again, I know I'm not doing something right. To me, everything balances around how happy I am. So I kind of index around it.
That was excellent.
I love what Priya said, actually. If you feel that itch right now that you have to do something more, that means there is some sort of desire that you want to, tap into, or whatever, whether it's an entrepreneur or volunteer. And I will tell you that I've kind of the person who has always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I will tell you, I feel it like it's too late. Like, I'm in my 40s and I'm like, why haven't I started something of my own? But I will. It's not like a ticking box. I know I will at some day. I don't know when it is. And so right now, very much to what Priya said, is right now my priority is my one kid is in high school, one kid is entering middle school. For me, it's very important to be available for them and enjoy the years that I have with them. So I'm prioritizing a little bit of a more of a balanced 9 to 5, job, corporate job, and spending time with my kids. Fitness is very important to me. I am in the gym 4 times a week. Anything happens, I am in the gym. That is non-negotiable. So that's kind of it. But I know I have a dream to start something of my own, and I also know exactly in which field. But it has to wait. I either had to do it in my 30s. This decade is very busy for me as a mom. So I will probably push it out. So I think at this phase of your time when you're figuring out what to do, I love the fact of, it'll come to you. Don't be harsh on yourself. It'll come to you like, hey, this is the time. And you will feel that itch. And when you don't know how to start it, talk to people. I do feel that we need to tap into our network, to our mentor, somebody who's already been an entrepreneur. Maybe Kirti Surya was here on stage. She's actually a very good friend of mine. And I know her journey very well. Talk to her. How did you start your journey? Like, she was also in corporate America, investment banker, whatever, and then whatever. So talking to people, being in forums like this, being in entrepreneur forums will actually give you that energy, and also tips and tricks that are much more tactical to be able you to unlock it. You talked about goal setting, and it may not be completely related to what you said, but I would say goal setting is very important. I do that with my life. I write down my goals. The goal is not that I want to be fit. That's a desire. The goal is I want to go to the gym 4 times a week. That's a goal. It's specific, it's measurable. We all know this. We've learned it, and everybody's gone through leadership training. They know that. Yeah. Yeah. So be specific about your goals. You want to start an entrepreneur? Okay, I'm going to talk to 2 entrepreneurs this month and learn about their journey, how they started, what kind of issues they faced, how did they raise funding, how did they, even get up, roll their sleeves and started thinking about it. So I think tapping into the network, we have a really, really great network in Seattle. We have a great, lots of entrepreneurs, a lot of tech people, a lot of people in the medicine field. This is a really gold mine of an area where you can tap into those communities. But I would say, network, get to learn more, and write down your goals. And that will really help you crystallize your thought and actually even achieve it. So
We can take.
In the meantime, I can take that. So, what was it you said, the goal setting part, right? I really think you said it so well that at every point you're very clear on what makes you happy, and that's how the goal is. I love that you spoke to your mom, um, and I'll tell you this, that this will always be the case. You will always be asking yourself, what should be, my next move be? I just shared with you, my mom's turning 90. I'm spending a lot more time with her. I asked her the same thing. What do you think will be my next? Where? The important parts are, for the big things in life, you should have some clarity, right? So for me, it was, you know, who I wanted to marry, what kind of life I wanted to lead. Those things were pretty clear, right? The rest of those details, had to be figured out every few years. When I wanted to step out of this long phase of the career, that I was clear. All of these things I was clear on, but some of the details are still a little uncertain, and that's okay. One thing I will say is there was a time when people would ask you, "What's your goal over the next 5 to 10 years?" You can't come up with that. The world around you is changing so much. You cannot be predicting that far ahead. So take it smaller chunks at a time. 5 may be the max, like Priya said, 5. But come closer, know what you can control, and then come up so you're less disappointed and frustrated and all of that. Because we don't need that negative energy in our lives.
Our next question is a two-part question from Deepa. So the first part is, do you feel dress for success really matters in the technology industry? And the second part is, what strategies have you employed to identify who is on your side and to keep them with you?
I can take that and I'll pass it. So dress for success, that's such an interesting one. By the way, is this Deepa from Portland? Because, okay, she doesn't say, okay. Because we've had quite a few. By the way, I'm from Portland. I just drove up this morning, thanks to my daughter who drove more than half the way. But yeah, dress for success is an interesting thing because some of it is important, right? It is important to come across as you care enough on how the work you do. That's why you also care enough about how you look. In the tech industry, depends again on tech industry is a very broad term because you can still be doing the tech stuff in the banking industry. You could be doing tech stuff in a pure tech space in the healthcare industry. So some of that defines too what the dress code is and what's acceptable or not. But the good part is you're seeing all of us. We're dressed very differently, and we're still okay doing this panel here. This morning, I left home when it was still dark in the garage, and both of us drove out, and I didn't realize I wore 2 different shoes and got into the car. Luckily, I had my walking shoes in the trunk because I came up halfway, and then I suddenly looked down, and because I kept wondering why I was walking weird, and I realized I had 2 completely different shoes. So I guess it's okay. I'm sitting here. She's wearing some really nice shoes. She's wearing great shoes, very comfortable and all of that. And I'm here too, and I'm hoping you didn't pay attention. But I think it's okay. Very important that you definitely care, but care enough where it's not the priority. The priority is the content you're bringing to the table, right? What was the second part again?
I'm going to repeat the question for folks who are on Zoom. The second part of the question was, what strategies have you applied to understand who's on your side and who's not? Who's your ally and who's not?
Right. That's a tough one because, people are complex. People are complex. And in all my years of having run teams, organizations and stuff, that's one of the hardest things is every single day you come across a person with things you just never faced, situations that you just never faced. So people are complex. So knowing who's on your side or not and all of that is a little hard. But where I'll say is go with trust. Go with trust first step, just because mentally it eases things on yourself. And then as you learn, you start to see patterns and you'll figure it out. It's different for each person. I don't know if necessarily there's a strategy that works for all. I'm sure they have better ideas. But where the way I approach things is I give my open self. I'm vulnerable, like I said earlier. This is who I am. And I share right up front. I'm like, I won't hide something from you. This is what I used to tell my peers, my teammates, people on my teams. And I would say, I'd rather hear it from you than from someone else. And you will always hear it from me, right? And so at that point, you hope and you do best. But it's no different in the workplace as in life. So I guess, people are complex. You'll figure it out.
So the second question about that, how do you know who's on your side? It's a very favorite topic of mine. I will tell you that in my life, there have been many times that some of my closest friends have not been on my side. And it's okay. Because when you are convicted about what you're wanting to do and you have the confidence to pursue, there will be some people who will not be in your camp. Either they're envious, and by the way, there's a lot of women drama that also happens, right? So I would say either they're envious or they don't agree, whatever that is. And it's not easy to know, as Kirti said. It's actually pretty complex because they will say something but do something else. But I can guarantee you the energy that they exhibit is going to come out. You will come out of that conversation not feeling very good or maybe have a little doubt. Listen to those signs. Trust your gut. That's right. Very, 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 very important word. Trust your gut. Your gut is not wrong. And very similar to Kirti here, I am an authentic person. I will give you my love. I'll give you my trust. But if I'm seeing signs that it's not getting reciprocated, I am maintaining my distance because I do not want that negativity. And I'm very good at doing that. In fact, my husband asked me, how do you do that? It's very important to do that because, And you will be very confused also, by the way. It's not going to be black and white. You're going to be very confused. Oh my God, she was my best friend. Oh my God, he was my best colleague. And why? They need to understand. They know me for 20 years. It's okay. We don't know what rocks their boat. And trust me, success is the biggest revenge that you can take. And I don't want to use the word revenge because you're not really going for battlefield. But I'm just saying, like, if you believe in being an entrepreneur, and you're going that path, there will be a lot of people say, oh my God, that's a bad idea. The macroeconomics is not good. You're not going to make money. Oh my God, you're going to fail. All of that is going to happen, but you don't want that. You want to make sure that you will have people who encourage you to think broadly, who have your back. It's okay when you fail. And they're not saying, oh my God, I told you you're going to fail. You don't want that kind of people. You want people, it's okay, you failed, but you tried something. You learned something. And that's very precious. Again, going back to what I said, who do you want at your kitchen table? And it's going to come slowly, slowly. That large crowd of 100 people is going to reduce to maybe 5 and 10 or 6 or 5 or 4 or 3, whatever. Those are the people you want in your life.
To add on to that, I would also, agree with Kriti. Like, I tend to, by default, trust people. If they talk to them, I always assume best intentions. That mostly works. Like, I would say the amount of time it works is significantly, exponentially higher than the amount of time it doesn't work. So it makes our life a lot simple. So I don't look for warning signs. I don't go around looking for, do they have a hidden intention or something? Like, even if they do a lot of times, even if I don't understand, it works out for me because of, like, again, it doesn't course correct me or doesn't change anything about me, what I'm doing. So assuming best intentions always works.
Just sing. And those who still stick around, those are the ones you can trust.
With that, we conclude our panel discussion today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, three of you, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think when it comes to a tech panel and a leadership panel, there is no end to the Q&A. We always have more questions and more things to talk about. Thanks to Kirti, Nitya, and Priya, all three of you. Your guidance means so much to us. And to know that all the mentors and supporters came all the way here to show their support and to actually share their insights, it means a lot. I know Kirti drove this morning from Portland. I can't tell you how much effort she went through to make it happen, and we really appreciate it, Kirti. Thank you so much. Thank you.